Is that a new frame?
Yeah, I just came in the mail today.
Are you uploading the video tonight?
Well, I hope so before iForce 2D does. Another day, another frame. Today we're looking at the Q210W. At least it's a short name compared to the GEFPV GEPZX5. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I actually said it all. So here's all the parts that come with the Q210W. And this is the main plate here, and it does not have the detachable arms, obviously. Now we've seen this frame shape before in another one, like the Anakin here. The Anakin has the same style, but it's not quite exactly the same. The arms are all separate and they're a little bit thicker than this main plate. But anyway, comes the main plate, the upper plate, and this is a separate plate that goes up over the camera. Then it has this little V-tail LED that goes on the back of the quadcopter. It's really just so that you can see it, other people can see you while you're flying, and because it's cool, I guess. Has the little motor covers, and I used to think these were kind of cheesy and not really necessary, but I have them on the Tyrant 180, and the nice thing about them is I'm never digging dirt out of the motors when I crash, which is kind of nice. They do add a little bit of weight, but they just protect motors from the dirt. Has a camera cover, camera adapter comes with it, and then a whole little bag of goodies with spacers, screws, and some little rubber feet to land on. So here's what the frame looks like fully assembled. Up here in the front it has a camera mount, and this camera mount can tilt, you know, dramatic directions if you wanted it to, and the cutout in the plate here should allow for a very, very steep angle on the camera, 45 degrees, maybe better, depending on how you have it mounted exactly. Down here on the bottom for landing gear, it has these little rubber things that stuck on here, and then there's a screw on the top that screws down into this to help hold it in. Now I don't know how well it's going to work. The screws felt like they got tight, but I didn't want to over tighten them and strip them out on this rubber, but I think it'll be, you know, it's a good idea, and if you don't crash hard or land, you know, real fast and rip these off, they should be fine. It's a lot better than just landing on the belly of the quadcopter. Up here on the top, it has these little spacers here that go between this upper plate and this middle plate, and they are not threaded, which is really nice because then the screw can just slid through this top plate, through the spacer, through this plate, and it actually screwed into the pole down here. And these four poles back here are a little bit shorter, and these two in the front, you know, you can see are a little bit longer. Back here in the back, it has that little V LED, and these spacers have holes in them for these screws. So the LED thing kind of sits down inside this little hole here a little bit to help hold the bottom in place, and then it has the two screws that screw in up above. And once those are in, then you can tighten the four on the sides here, and it holds itself in place pretty well. Along with this V shape back here, they kind of had to make this a V so that your video antenna could come out and route up around through this. Now some people don't like having the frame ground, or the antenna ground to the carbon fiber, because if it grounds up here, it's grounded everywhere pretty much on the whole frame. So if you have any shorts and they touch the carbon fiber out here, it'll ground out to the antenna and you'll have problems. But the real answer is don't ground anything to the frame. Don't let anything touch it that's not ground, and you'll be fine. But up here on the top, the nice thing is it has a couple of these long cut holes here, which are good for zip ties to go through to help hold your video transmitter in place, which I like. It also has a couple holes here and here, which are good for your battery straps. So when you put your battery up here on top, then it has a, you know, place for the strap to go through. And the here, we'll flip it over this way. This is where your flight board would mount, and it has these little cut holes like this so you can use different sizes, which I don't think it really makes a whole lot of sense, since if you're using these, I haven't ever seen one that's smaller than 35 millimeters, but you know, whatever, I guess. So here's the ruler on here, just so you can see how far these things are actually, how wide these actually go. They go about 40, maybe 40 millimeters if you had the middle of the screws in there. So it would allow for a 40, you know, 40 millimeter that way. And coming this way, it's 35. So, well, not even 35, it's more like 30. 30, so you can't fit anything bigger than an ACE 32 or a CC3D in here. If you have one of the old KK2 boards that are huge, not gonna fit, but I don't really recommend those. They're kind of old at this point. One nice thing about this is that it has the holes cut here for your 1806 or 1306 motors, and these bigger holes out here are cut for your 2200 size motors, and so based on the direction that they're cut, it looks like they want you to, or expect you to run 2200 size motors, which anymore, I'm not running the 1806. The only advantage of 1806 motors is that they don't draw as many amps, and so that you'll have a little bit longer flight times with those. So here are the motor guards, and the motor guards have to sit up on top of this, like on top of the arm like this. And again, you can see here, if you're using 2200 size motors, you're in luck because you can use these. If you're using 1806 motors, you're not going to be using these, or you're going to be drilling them out. Now these have to sit up on top of the carbon fiber frame like this. They won't fit inside inside here like the ones on the Tyrant 180 do. They're designed to go around the arm, and they actually have landing gear down on the bottom. These don't have any landing gear. They're just motor protectors, not landing gear, because they use the rubber things for landing gear. The camera mount came with 2 extra camera holders in case you have a weird size camera, or just so that hopefully you get the size that actually fits on your camera. The motor covers here, the motor protectors, they came with 16 M3 or 8 millimeter screws, which should be long enough to go through the carbon fiber and through the motor mounts and into your motors. The one thing you want to make sure is that these screws don't actually touch any of the windings inside your motors. If they do, that's where you're going to have a short, and if you have your antenna touching up here, it's going to short from the motor right up to the antenna, and you will have problems. Don't use screws that are too long. So let's go ahead and get some measurements off this frame. These rear plates here, they are, I'm cutting the wire. There we go. The rear plates are about 26 millimeters. So this is a little bit shorter than the normal 33 millimeters. This top section here in the front, it comes out at, let me get it straight, about 33, what is it, 33.8, almost 34 millimeters up here in the front. Again, that's a little bit weird that they're not 35 like you would expect. The other thing is here, another downfall of this frame is that this distance from, this is in the way for me. The distance from here to here is pretty long. In fact, I'll go ahead and measure that on here. The distance is about there we go, about 90 millimeters or 9 centimeters from here, from the front to the back. And this plate up on top is not real thick. This thing is driving me crazy trying to measure this. This part up here on the top, this top plate is 2 millimeters thick. There we go. It's 2 millimeters thick, so it's a decent thickness. Is it 2 millimeters? It doesn't feel like 2. No, it's not 2 millimeters. I was measuring the wire. Okay, it's about whoa, I missed it. 1.5 millimeters, 1.35 millimeters or so. It's a pretty thin top plate up there, which does not make me feel real good about the weight of the battery. This main plate is 3 millimeters, which is pretty decent. A lot of the frames now are coming at 4 millimeters, but 3 millimeters is still pretty thick. That's what the LS210 is. And I've only managed to crack one of the frames in it with a crash. But 3 millimeters is pretty decent. But I'd like to see another spacer inside here somewhere, especially since your flight board is going to be sitting clear up here in the front. You have plenty of space here or here, to run another spacer if you wanted to. But they should have. I think they should have put another spacer in there, and it should have come with it with the holes pre-drilled. Oh well. If they don't, if they didn't think it was worth it, then maybe not. Also, another thing down here on the bottom, this bottom plate has these holes cut out here, so you can run your video transmitter up here on the top plate and your control receiver on this bottom plate and be able to zip tie it down. And it's still plenty of distance from the flight board. And I only say that because there's a lot of room there, so they're not going to be up here tight or anything in the when up here in this space here that in the back. So here I have the frame. Let's go ahead and get this weighed, and this is without the motor mounts, and it looks like it comes in about 91 grams. And if I go ahead and I put these motor mounts on here, these motor protectors onto the frame, then it comes out to be about 99.3, and that's with just the motor mounts on there. Here's a dowel prop. It's a 5045 tri-blade, and if I center it over this rear hole back here, you can see it's passing the frame more than just fine. And I'll go ahead and turn it this way. And here's another dowel prop, same size, 5045 tri-blade. And if I center it up here, you can see it is, holy mackerel, is it not going to fit? It may not fit across there in the front of this thing. Oh my gosh, I have to get a motor and test it. Okay, well, anyway, maybe it won't clear. I'll have to check it a little bit closer. But they won't touch front to back, which is good. Let me get a motor mounted on here, and we'll see if this thing actually can spin past this pole, because it doesn't look like it's going to. Oh my goodness. So here I have the DYS motor mounted on here. This is an SE2205 motor. And if I put it down here, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little better. It's just mounted over here on the shaft. There's nothing holding it down. Let's get up here kind of close if we can. All right, so here it is. Look at this. It clears it, but it is just barely clearing it. And it's getting a little bit of under frame here from this 5-inch propeller. Man, you talk about a tight fit. Look, I'll spin it. It spins fine. It spins past it. But boy, it is a really tight going through there. Oh boy, that makes me a little nervous. I'm always a little bit hesitant when the motor actually goes under the carbon fiber plates or between them, because usually I think to myself, if it's under this frame, it's free game. I can put stuff under there. Not the case with this one. That is just getting under there a little bit. Let me see if I can turn it like this. And there we go. And you can see here it comes along, and boy, it is tight through there. Ugh. Okay, so yes, it can spin 5-inch propellers. That's good. It's good to know. It spins it just fine. But boy, it's good. It's a tight 5, especially up here on the front. The back looks like they're a little bit further apart, but man, that's close. Since those are so tight, I'm gonna go ahead and measure this to see how far apart these motors really are. And it looks like they're about from left to right. If I zero it up here and come over here, it's about 165 maybe between the two motors there. And if I check these rear motors, they are about the same distance here. I got it centered near 0. Or yeah, and they're about 165 in the rear also. Boy, that is just really tight right there. But I guess the frame kind of makes down to a V back here, so it doesn't have that same problem back here in the back. While we have the ruler out, let's go ahead and measure this distance here. Hopefully it's around 210, since that's what they're calling this frame. There it's kind of centered. There it's kind of centered near 0. And over here we're about 214. That's close enough for 210. At least it's not 220 and they called it a 210. Maybe if we fudge it a little bit, it'd make a little bit difference, but about 214. So 210 is a good name. A lot of times people will question whether or not this is real carbon fiber or if it's glass fiber, you know, with a layer of carbon fiber on top to make it look nice. Well, here's the Anakin frame, and I know this is a very high quality frame. And if I touch these two together right now, the little thing, multimeter here starts beeping. And so the carbon fiber should be conductive. So if I touch it on either side of this arm, we get a beep, so we know that this is actually conductive, which means it's most likely really is carbon fiber. Like I said, a lot of people say, oh, is it real carbon fiber? Well, probably. It's not like carbon fiber is like super, super expensive. So here, I'll go ahead and touch both sides of this. And if I push kind of hard, it starts beeping. If I don't push hard, it doesn't beep. But if I give it a little bit of a push, then it does. And if I almost broke it. Don't do that again. Anyway, so this is actually is carbon fiber. Another thing worth noting on here, it has these little indentions on all the arms, and those are for holding zip ties in place when you mount your ESCs out here on the arms. You can use a zip tie, and it'll help keep the ESC from sliding up and down, or at least the zip tie from sliding up and down while it's holding the ESC in place. So is this an Anakin clone? No. Not really. They kind of have the same or a similar shape, but it's not a clone of the Anakin. I mean, the design of the Anakin is a lot more complex than this, and even when you hold the layout or hold them bottom to bottom like this, the layouts are close, but It's just similar looking. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a clone of that thing at all. Anyway, this is the Q210W from Banggood. This looks like a pretty nice frame. Like I said, the only downfalls about this that I see is the top plate here could be a little bit weak in a crash, holding your battery up here. And also, the thing I'm most hesitant about is that 5-inch prop just barely clearing in here. I don't think it'll ever hit anything as long as you just keep your wires tucked back in there. But like I said, it was just barely getting underneath here, but you know, that's just the way it goes. Anyway, Q210W from Banggood. If you have any questions about this, leave them in the comments and I will try to help you out as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.